2023 is already off to a pretty good start for gaming, eh? There's been quite a few big game releases as of recent, already a few Game of the Year contenders from what I've heard, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm sure those games are great and all, but I've had my eyes set on one for quite a while now. Pizza Tower. From the very moment I saw this game, I could tell why it had gained so much traction, but it wasn't until I played it that I understood the bigger picture. The game was created by Torta Pizza and is a platformer inspired by the Wyrlwind series, which has a much bigger cult following than I had thought. It's a series I really want to play more of, as I've only played through a bit of the first and second game currently, and I've heard plenty of good things about the series as a whole. However, Wyrlwind Shake It would ultimately be the last game in the series that we'd see, well, ever. But hey, if a torch is dropped, there's gotta be someone else to pick it back up and carry it on, right? Right from the start, you'll notice a few similarities to how Peppino controls compared to Wario, but Peppino is a lot more speedy and frantic in his movement, as you're encouraged to play the game as fast as possible. You'll mostly be using the dash attack, which is a constant move rather than a brief dash like in the early Wario Land games, and a few of Peppino's moves rely on how fast that dash is going, or in other words, his Mach state. It starts off slow at Mach 1, quickly reaching Mach 2, then once you run a certain distance, he'll reach Mach 3, which gives him the ability to mow down enemies in his path and blocks of steel, as well as perform super jumps by holding up. The game gives you a few other, quicker options to speed up to Mach 3 as well if you're worried about that, like for example, running down slopes will instantly push you into Mach 3, and I believe if you grab and then immediately dash you'll be put into Mach 3, but that's getting into Pizza Tower speedrun tech, which I am not knowledgeable on. Peppino also boasts a ground pound, which does greater damage from higher heights, the ability to grab and throw enemies, a taunt which acts as a parry, and a slide maneuver which gets you past tight spaces. Everything works pretty well apart from the super jump, which can be somewhat awkward to pull off at times, and the dash can also take some getting used to. Quite often you'll find that quick turns are necessary to go as fast as possible, but Peppino doesn't turn on a dime, rather he slides off in the direction you were going in before switching directions. This can feel really rough at first, but please keep trying at it because I promise you it does start to feel more natural. What can be a lot more frustrating though, unfortunately, is the wall running. See, whenever you're dashing, you can run up any wall in your path, and I'll admit that even after beating the game, I still struggle a lot with accidentally running up walls whenever I'm not even trying to. It's far from a game-breaking issue, but it can be pretty frustrating at times. Alongside the base moves are a handful of moveset altering abilities, one of my favorites of which being this one later in the game that turns Peppino into a pizza box. Who did this to him? Well, a wise man did once say you are what you eat. Of course, let's not forget that Mort the Chicken is also an ability. Yeah, you know, Mort the Chicken, hit PS1 platformer mascot. This dude was absent for almost 23 years, but the Pizza Tower guy asked his creator for permission to include Mort in the game, and just like that, he's back. I don't know whether to be happy or scared about this information. I'd say pretty much all of the abilities are fun to use, creative, and a nice change of pace for mid-stage. Part of me wishes they had a greater presence in the game, but at the same time I wouldn't want them to overstay their welcome. You'll also come across some other stage gimmicks, like there's a handful of levels where you switch to playing as another character, Gustavo, midway through. And I don't like it. Honestly, I'd much rather have more sections of the levels tied to a new ability and just relegate Gustavo to being another playable character, as I don't like how he feels to play as nearly as much as Peppino. I don't mind the option of another playable character, but I prefer it not to be forced on me mid-stage. Like I mentioned earlier, you're encouraged to adopt a faster playstyle in each level to get a higher score. You have a combo meter that raises for each enemy you've defeated, but gradually goes down and resets if you're unable to keep the combo going. I was a bit skeptical at first how well this would work, but the gameplay loop hooked me from the very start. Something inside me just instantly clicked with the game because it feels incredible to play. It's one of those easy to learn, hard to master kinds of games with a pretty high skill ceiling. Getting a perfect score is by no means required, but it is super addicting to do so if you really want to. Learning the best paths to take to ensure your combo keeps going and blazing through. It kind of feels like a Sonic game, if that makes any sense. The levels are somewhat tightly designed, making it seem as though there's not a whole lot going on, but there's plenty of secrets to be found. The most easily found collectibles are the 5 pizza toppings, which are required required collectibles for progression, and not to be confused with the regular pizza toppings that just increase your score though. The game could do with being more lenient on how many toppings you have to collect, because if I recall correctly, you could only miss about 5 or so in the entire game to be able to unlock the final boss door, which I didn't have an issue with personally, as a vast majority of the toppings are in pretty obvious places, and the game encourages replaying the stages a bunch, which also helped, but still, it can be kind of annoying for newcomers. There's also free secret areas as well as a hidden treasure in each level, so on top of the level design already being solid enough on its own to get me to replay them, you're given plenty more reason to do so over and over again to find the secrets, get a perfect score, and that's just one of the biggest things I love about this game. I have a ton of fun extra content to chip away at whenever I feel like it. But that's about it for the levels, other than one thing of course, escaping. Once you've reached the end of a level, you destroy this thing, and you'd think that's where it ends, but now you've got to race your way back through the level to the entrance before time runs out, otherwise you'll be chased down by Pizza Face. Look, I know Wyrlwind did it first, but nonetheless, this is such an awesome way to cap off a level. Being stressful as heck, and paired with that killer music, I don't feel like any other game I've played has quite been able to convey that feeling of panic you get like this game does with its escape theme, but by the end it makes you feel cool as hell. Overall, Pizza Tower is a bizarre and short but really fun time. You can tell how much passion the team had for this game, from its wonderfully goofy art direction to the banging music, fun levels, and the experience as a whole. The art is a little rough here and there, but that's kinda the charm of it personally, and it definitely makes Peppino look 10 times funnier. Seriously, he is so dang expressive, it looks like he's gonna pass out from stress at any given moment. Poor dude, just let him go home. I went into this thinking I'd like it, but not expecting to come out having a new game to go on my list of all-time favorites, but hey, I don't mind another smash hit like this every so often. I would highly recommend checking the game out whether you're a fan of Wario Land or not, as Pizza Tower shares many elements with the series, but it's executed in a way that it stands on its own and does a dang good job of it. It's certainly a game I'll be coming back to often, so that's why my final rating for this is a pizza out of 10.